It's pretty amazing how quickly some people will point the finger, especially when they're politicians who should love the idea of the government saving us. Good morning at 6:05. It is great to have you here on KCMO Talk Radio as we kick it off on a Wednesday. So we've been tracking this story here in Kansas City since Sunday, where a 68-year-old man died and several people were injured when the front of the Family Dollar building collapsed right on like 37th and Broadway in KCMO. And I give credit to some local media for actually doing a lot of digging on what the heck happened here and why this building, which had been sagging for quite some time, was never fixed. There were never cones put up around it, and it was just operating as normal. So 41 had this story. City leaders are working through how the tragedy happened and how to prevent a similar incident in the future. And this quote stood out to me from Kansas City, Missouri City Council member Eric Bike Boy Bunch. He's the guy who likes to ride his bike around town. He's the only guy in town, I think, who uses the bike lanes, but he wants to build more of them because he's Bike Boy Bunch. And Bike Boy Bunch told Channel 41 this. He said, quote, "I'm not prepared to make any sort of blanket statement on any policy that needs to be reviewed. But of course, anytime a tragedy like this occurs that appears to be preventable, I think we should hold accountable property owners and business owners who threaten the lives of our citizens." A couple of thoughts there on that quote from Bike Boy Bunch. Number one, I wish he felt that way about violent criminals in Kansas City. He doesn't. He likes to blame the cops. And then number two is, considering the size of the Kansas City bureaucracy and the fact that we have had multiple calls to different agencies, and we've had agencies out there telling this Family Dollar store to get rid of its graffiti and you've got too much trash and pick up your weeds, somebody is clearly in charge of making sure these properties are up to code and up to snuff and are doing their job when it comes to looking presentable. You've got a roof that was completely sagging. We know that as of late last week, people had called the city and complained about it, and no one did anything about it. Now, I'm not jumping to a conclusion here and saying this was the fault of basically a bureaucracy that didn't move quickly enough. I'm not jumping to that conclusion. I'm saying it's possible that's part of what happened here. But for Eric Bunch to say, I don't want to make any blanket statement, but obviously we got to hold property owners accountable. Yeah, sure. I mean, of course. I'm not denying that, but remember, these property owners, as we told you yesterday, had been fined like $85 and $100 here and there for little things happening around the property, but no one really took them to task on the infrastructure of the building. And that appears to be incredibly problematic when you look back on what happened here, and it results in a 68-year-old man getting killed standing outside a Family Dollar at 37th and Broadway. And when the guy who was all about the bureaucracy suddenly is like, yeah, that's on the property owners. Okay, if we're going to play that game, then just get rid of all these nonsense departments and let individuals decide which building they're going to walk into based on whether or not it looks like the front of the building's about to fall off the side into the street. Just do it that way then. If you can't get the people that you want to hire more of to do the job they're already being tasked with, then we've got a problem. And the answer here is not going to be growing fill-in-the-blank department. If only we had more employees in such and such department, we'd be totally fine. That's not going to fly, and it shouldn't fly. And it was very telling when the councilman jumped to that conclusion in this comment to Channel 41. He added here, "I'm not a structural engineer, but I know enough to see that's very likely a cause that a column was taken out," referring to the fact that images show a column in place in an August 2015 photo, but it was no longer visible in photos dated November 2016. A crash occurred into the support beam in October of 2016, and I guess this column outside this Family Dollar was never replaced. So that's almost 10 years ago now. You're telling me that nobody at Kansas City, no one in Kansas City, in the government, I mean, they do all these dopey inspections all the time. You're telling me nobody brought this to anyone's attention over 10 years? Whose fault is that? Bunch says building owners are obligated to report to the city via the permitting process to fix that. In this case, we have no record, no permit application for structural engineering of that particular building. Okay, so are there consequences for that? Is anybody following up on that over 10 years? Or is it just slipping through the cracks? Those questions also need to be asked in this story, and we will keep asking them here on KCMO Talk Radio. In the meantime, if you are just getting going this morning, you may have seen that on the national, really even the global news front, there was an 8.8 magnitude earthquake that struck off of Russia's remote Far East coast. And it has sparked tsunami warnings and evacuations all over the Pacific. You have waves that are hitting Japan that are up to 4 feet tall. Now, this is just causing right now early evacuations. Hawaii has actually canceled its evacuation order as of 45 minutes ago, asking people right now to just watch for damage and obviously stay alert and keep an eye on what these tsunami alerts may be and how they may change going forward. But you also have a situation that, you go out to California and you've got the California coast that also finds itself right now in a tsunami advisory for that entire coast. The National Weather Service in Los Angeles said a rapid and damaging surge caused sea levels to rise from low tide to high tide within minutes. So that tsunami advisory is still in effect for the entire California coast as we keep an eye on what exactly is going on here. 18 minutes ago, Japan has downgraded its tsunami warnings to advisories. So good news over there, but that's something that we will be watching as well. 2 hours ago, tsunami waves up to a foot high have reached the U.S. island territory of Guam. So Guam is now back in the forefront, and hopefully Guam doesn't tip over. As one of the infamous comments, I think that was Hank Johnson out of Georgia was the guy who once famously said that Guam may capsize because we have too much military equipment on the island or something like that. Oh, you got to love it. Anyway, I will tell you this much, Mark. Mm-hmm. When it comes to severe weather, I have been through tornadoes. I have been through, not physically in a tornado, but, I've been in tornado warnings. I've had a tornado miss my home when I was living in Oklahoma by about half a mile. I have been in hurricanes. Been in, decent amount of severe weather. Hail, blizzard, you go down the list. For whatever reason, the idea of living in an area where there is a tsunami warning scares the crap out of me. Oh, that is the one severe weather thing that I don't know. Most of them don't bother me. Most of them I feel like, hey, I would know my way around it, know my way out of it. The idea of being stuck in a place where there is a tsunami and a tsunami warning is actually the one severe weather thing that I have zero interest in ever experiencing.
Yeah, I definitely would never want to be in a zone like that when it happens. When we were out on the West Coast earlier this summer, we saw the evacuation signs for tsunamis. So I was actually on a beach where they have this, the watch actually right now is happening where I was this summer. So there's luckily in that part of the country, you can get to high ground pretty quickly. But to those who are just, especially in Hawaii maybe where you can't get to it as quickly, that's a rough spot.
Yeah, or Japan or Guam or some of these other places. I'm with you. I saw this last night right before I went to bed. I saw this news of the earthquake off of Russia and then causing tsunami advisories and warnings all across the Pacific. And I'm like, you know what? I'm glad we're in Kansas City. I'm always glad we're in Kansas City, despite the problems we may have, like an incompetent government that can't keep an eye on the Family Dollar store. We're not dealing with tsunami warnings. So that is the good news this morning. But, of course, we'll keep you updated on what's happening out there in the Pacific. So that's something that we're watching right now, Mark.
Also, great news out of North Dakota. No threat for tsunami impacts in North Dakota, according to National Weather Service Grand Forks. So I guess people were searching for tsunami near Fargo, North Dakota. I don't know.
Wait, hold on. I thought the National Weather Service was crying about how Trump got rid of all their funding and they don't have anybody in the buildings anymore. And, oh, my gosh, they've got time for Comedy Hour on their social media accounts, apparently, when you've got the National Weather Service in North Dakota making jokes about how they do not have an active tsunami warning.
Looks like it.
Okay, well, good for them. I'm glad they still have the jokes up there in North Dakota. Very well done. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM and streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Did you see this meltdown yesterday? There was one member on the floor of the United States Senate, and the guy just, I don't know what he took. I don't know what he was hopped up on, but, man, it was some good stuff because he just went off his rocker, and it looked like something out of a Broadway play. We'll play the audio for you next on KCMO. You know, it's been a pretty quiet few weeks in Congress since the big, beautiful bill passed, which I'm fine with. I'm never going to be one of these guys, and we're never going to be one of these shows that just micromanages the day-to-day in Washington, D.C., because while I'm not in the studio this morning, I would use the drop from President Trump that nobody cares, because nobody does care. It's completely irrelevant. Now, I understand there are big things that are happening and getting done on a regular basis. I get it. I do. And there are things that we need to care about, but not 365 days a year. No, that's not
Nobody cares.
No, thank you. There's so much grandstanding involved. There's so much nonsense. There's so much politicking, and a lot of it doesn't impact our day-to-day lives. But this was just entertaining yesterday. And it was Democratic Senator Cory Booker out of New Jersey, who was on the Senate floor and ended up ripping into his own political party. That's right, his fellow Democrats. He laid into them in this rant on the Senate floor yesterday. It was getting into the weeds after he objected and offered an amendment to some underlying package they were debating that would allow his state to have more access to certain grants. Doesn't matter. Once again, in the words of Donald Trump, nobody cares. But here is Cory Booker on the Senate floor just going ballistic. And the bigger picture here is this. The Democrat Party is broken. They are defined by, right now, fighting within their own party. They are directionless unless it's around being anti-Trump everything. That's the only thing right now that brings this political party together, is Donald Trump and being against Donald Trump. But the minute you go outside of that, they've got nothing. Absolutely nothing. Here was Cory Booker yesterday on the Senate floor.
The Democratic Party needs a wake-up call. I see law firms bending a knee to this president, not caring about the larger principles, that those free speech rights, that you could take on any client, why are you bending the knee? I see universities that should be bastions of free speech bending at the knee to this president. I see businesses taking late-night talk show hosts off the air because they dare to insult a president. I see people who want mergers suddenly think that they have to pay tribute to this president. And what are the very people here elected to defend the Constitution of the United States saying, oh, well, today let's look the other way and pass some resources that won't go to Connecticut, that won't go to Illinois, that won't go to New York, that will go to the states he likes? That is complicity with an authoritarian leader who is trashing our Constitution. It's time for Democrats to have a backbone. It's time for us to fight. It's time for us to draw lines. And when it comes to the safety of my state being denied these grants, That's why I'm standing here. Don't question my integrity. Don't question my motives. I'm standing for Jersey. I am standing for my police officers. I'm standing for the Constitution, and I'm standing for what's right. And dear God, if you want to come at me that way, you're going to have to take it up with me, because there's too much.
Okay. All right. Corey, relax. Sir, this is a Wendy's. Oh, my goodness. Is he standing up for the mental institutions as well? Because he might need to check himself into one of those. This is a skit. This is like something off of Broadway, Mark, is it not? I mean, it feels like something out of Hamilton is what it feels like to me.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am Alexander Hamilton. Just you wait.
Yeah, I think Cory Booker is doing his own Hamilton performance, except he's on the Senate floor and not on Broadway. He should just go to Broadway. It's probably a better fit for him, because that was one big acting job, Mark. That's all it was.
He didn't want to throw away his shot. He's trying to, set himself up for the presidency, right? Is that what he's doing?
Well, I do think that he's contemplating a White House run in 2028. I think a lot of these folks are. And you're seeing that in how they're acting right now. Cory Booker sees a political party that he's a part of that is at its lowest favorability numbers in 35 years, and he's trying to show that he's got the passion and he's got the gumption to fight back against Trump and stand up for American values and all these things that he was screaming about. But he claims that, like, Harvard is bending the knee to Trump. No, they're just abiding by the law. He's claiming that businesses are throwing late-night hosts off the air because of Trump. You know what he's doing? He's actually giving Donald Trump way too much credit, which is the opposite of what he should be doing. He should be trying to figure out how to discredit Trump and say, Trump's doing a lot right now, but we get back in power, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. He's giving Trump too much power and too much credit. It's like he's helping Trump in a roundabout way. I don't understand this strategy, besides the fact that Cory Booker looks like an absolute lunatic and sounds like a lunatic. I don't understand it. Ed's in Gladstone on line one. Go ahead, Ed. You're on KCMO.
Hey, I just have one thing to say. I am Spartacus.
That's well done there, Ed. Nice job by you. There you go. Drop that mic. Call it a day. Ed in Gladstone calling out Cory Spartacus Booker. Yes, he thinks very highly of his acting skills, and that was on display once again yesterday. They are, right now, a party without a leader and without a direction, and that was clear in that clip. Coming up, Travis Kelce did something before he posted his photos with Taylor Swift on Instagram. We'll get you the details next. So you saw this, maybe you didn't see, but I know Mark saw it. Big photo dump that Travis Kelce put up on his Instagram page the other day, and it was a bunch of pictures of him and Taylor from the last few months in the offseason, and the thing, it went totally viral. It got 3.5 million likes, 67,000 comments. It got shared 612,000 times. So this thing went totally viral. Mark, did you see it? I guess it was posted late last week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a nice little photo dump there.
Yeah, it was. Nice photo dump from Travis Kelce. And it was a bunch of photos. It was just titled, "Had some adventures this offseason, kept it 100," with the 100 emoji. And not every photo, but a bunch of the photos are of him and Taylor Swift. And sometimes they're hanging out with friends, pictures of him and Jason. So a new report, Rob Shooter, who is a gossip columnist, and he's run some major entertainment brands in this country. He's been the executive editor of OK Magazine, and he's well regarded in that space. He had a report that said Travis Kelce asked for Taylor Swift's permission before posting his recent photo dump on Instagram. According to the report, Travis ran every single photo on the Instagram by her. He did not want to post anything she wasn't 100% comfortable with. He respects her privacy, as always. So this was the first time that he had posted a photo on his Instagram page. He had posted, I guess, stories, but the first time he had posted something on her page or on his page with her. And he ran every single photo by her. Now, initially, when I first saw the story, Mark, I was all set to rip on Travis. But then took a beat, took a breath, took a step back, and I said, you know what? I respect this.
Mm-hmm.
I respect the fact that he's dating the biggest pop star on the planet, and the last thing he should have probably done in that moment, since she is fairly private, is put up a bunch of pictures of her on Instagram and then her be like, what the heck are you doing? That would not have been a good look. But I don't want to give him too much credit. I respect what he did, but I don't want to give him too much credit because they've been dating now for 2 years. Like, this is something you do 2 months into a relationship. Hey, could I post this photo of you? Are you cool with that? You're 2 years into this relationship. You're both in your mid-30s. And you're finally at the point where you want to post a photo and you've got to run the photos by her. I don't have a problem with him doing that. I respect the fact that he wants to make sure she's okay with it. I just think that this relationship is taking way too long to develop. It's like a fly route in the NFL. Sometimes they take way too long to develop if the wide receiver is not running a 4.4 or 4.3 40-yard dash. I'm just getting the sense, Mark, that the relationship should be much further along than it is 2 years into this thing now already.
I find this to be more like it's another step to them having a serious relationship because this is just me, of course, but my wife always wants to see the photo before I post it. She hates her picture on social media. So I've actually been on that side of it where my wife's like, hey, why did you post that picture? So I get where Travis is coming from on this one, actually.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
so you are still you don't overdo it, but you do post a lot of family photos when you do things and whatnot on your Facebook and things like that. So does she want you to run every photo by her, or do you say, hey, I'm going to post these photos, what do you think?
She says, hey, if I'm going to be in a picture, I want to approve it. That's what she says.
Really?
Yeah. So
wow.
That's 15 years in, too, so.
Yeah.
I get it.
Okay. Okay, well, I guess we just live in different worlds and have very different wives because I don't think I've ever gotten reamed out for posting a certain photo of my wife on social media. Now, if she didn't like it, I'm sure I'd hear about it, so maybe I just have great judgment. Maybe I just know exactly what photos to post. But maybe for Travis and Taylor, it's one of those deals where he's trying to figure out what exactly he needs to do to make sure he's staying in her good graces. And I guess if getting every single photo on Instagram approved is the answer, he's got to do what he's got to do.
Especially if it was the first photos he ever posted over on it, he's got to play it safe on that one.
Okay, well, you're talking me into this, Mark, and this is not really what I wanted to have happen here, but I guess that's the beauty of live radio. So be it. On the text line, 913-408-7957. Pete, Travis is a smart man. I check before I post any photos of someone else. That's a common courtesy. No. That's too much. I wouldn't post photos of somebody else's kids without getting approval. Non-family children. I would do that out of courtesy. But if I'm taking a photo with friends and then you post the photo, what are you going to text every friend and ask them if they can approve of posting this photo of you? That's absurd. That you can't live like that on social media today. You can't do it. That's too much. What else do we have here? Pete, this is nothing new. Every woman I know in any type of situation would want the same common courtesy as Taylor Swift. Okay. All right, now I'm going to get steamrolled here on the text line, which is really not what I expected or wanted to happen. But Mark's got everyone coming out against me here. So I guess I should move on is what I'm sensing here, Mark. I'm just going to move on because now I'm just getting beat up left and right.
Hey, that's all right. I mean, you kind of have adjusted your take on the fly, which is good of you, I think.
Yeah, I know. Also on the text line, Pete, my husband hates when I post pictures of him. I have to ask him first or just exclude him. Now, that's reverse gender roles, which brings up an interesting back and forth there. The guy's the one who hates the photo.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think most guys just don't really care. But, hey, if you got to run it by him, you got to run it by him. So this is a part of that relationship that I guess I hadn't given much thought to. But apparently Travis is not alone, and many of you are on board with his social media rules that he is engaged in when it comes to Taylor Swift. On the text line, Pete, all I heard is that Mark's wife is basically Taylor Swift. Yes, that is the moral of this story. That's the takeaway here. Mark's wife is basically Taylor Swift.
Very private.
There you go. Very. Oh, man. Now, speaking of our sports teams here in Kansas City, there's a deadline approaching for the Kansas City Royals if the team wants to go on the November ballot in Missouri. The deadline is less than 1 month away. It's August 26th in Clay County. If they want to go up to North KC and be on the ballot in November to get a new stadium up there and potentially get a half-cent sales tax, it's got to be done by August 26th. So the county commission up there in Clay County meets every week. They are meeting tomorrow, July 31st. They will then meet again on August 7th, August 14th, and August 21st, prior to that deadline. Clay County Commissioner Jerry Nolte told John Ketz at Fox 4 that they really need a couple of weeks of lead time to figure out whether or not they can get something on the ballot for November. The Royals cannot show up on August 25th and say, hey, Clay County Commissioners, can we go on the ballot in November for a half-cent sales tax to build a new stadium in North Kansas City? The answer is going to be no. This stadium deal likely has to be discussed at the August 14th and August 21st meetings to have a chance to get on the ballot in November. And there's a belief that the Royals want to be on the ballot if they like North Kansas City, if that's their spot. They've got to be on the ballot in November because then they would start the process, if approved, of actually going through and building a new stadium, which will take 4 to 5 years. And their lease is done in, early 2031. So they've got to get the ball moving on this thing. And if they like North KC, they've got to figure out whether or not the voters will approve a half-cent sales tax. Now, I have heard from people up in North Kansas City involved in this project that the polling is there. The polling is there for them to get this sales tax approved. They think that Clay County voters will go ahead and vote yes on a half-cent sales tax to bring the Royals up to the Northland. So if that's the case, and if they feel good about their polling, and if they like that location, they've got to get moving here. They've got basically 2 weeks to let the Clay County Commission know if they want to be on a November ballot. And I think November's the play here. I mean, I wouldn't wait till next April because you're just kicking the can down the road even further, which, my goodness, how much longer can the Royals keep doing that, for crying out loud? But this would definitely be a step in the right direction and would help further this story that right now is just stuck in the mud as we sit here and wait and wait and wait for these two teams to decide what exactly it is they want to do. Sydney Sweeney is under attack for no reason other than the fact that she is a pretty woman who happens to have white skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes. It's absurd, but it's also America in 2025. So Sydney Sweeney, who is an actress and a model, was selected by American Eagle to be their it girl. And the backlash has been out of control the last few days. And we touched on this yesterday because you have seen article after article after article written about how American Eagle had racist undertones in its new ad campaign around Sydney Sweeney. Because what they did is they talked about how Sydney Sweeney had good genes. And they did a play on words where they wrote jeans, G-E-N-E-S. They crossed it out, and then they wrote jeans, J-E-A-N-S, right? They were selling jeans. They said Sydney Sweeney has good genes with a G. They crossed it out. They used the J side. That's pretty clever. That's pretty good. Because guess what? Sydney Sweeney does have good genes. She doesn't have good genes because she's white. There's a lot of ugly white people. We're white guys on radio. There's a reason for that. Okay? There is. She's not someone with good genes because she has blonde hair. She's not somebody with good genes because she has blue eyes. There's a lot of ugly people with white skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes. She has great genes because she's beautiful. Her skin color does not make her beautiful. Her hair color does not make her beautiful. Her eye color does not make her beautiful. Now, you may be attracted to those qualities of her, but it's not what inherently makes her beautiful, and it's not what her genes are ultimately defined by, right? I mean, this is just common sense stuff. But the media has just had a cow over this the last few days. Article after article after article that you can find all over the internet written about Sydney Sweeney and what they call basically a racist ad campaign by American Eagle. MSNBC had this opinion piece. Sydney Sweeney's ad shows an unbridled cultural shift towards whiteness. How about this irony? The woman who wrote the article has white skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes. Go figure, right? I shared this yesterday on X at Pete Mundo. And why is that? Well, because these are the young people who have been trained through higher education, social media, and pop culture to hate themselves and apologize on behalf of their own. That's how they were brought up. That's how they were trained through college and through social media and through pop culture. It's just absolutely gross. And this was just as gross yesterday. Good Morning America going down this rabbit hole as well. Take a listen.
Time to check the pulse. We begin with the backlash over a new ad campaign featuring actress Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, the ads are for American Eagle, and the tagline is, Sydney Sweeney has great genes. Now, in one ad, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed actress talks about genes as in DNA being passed down from her parents.
The play on words is being compared to Nazi propaganda with racial undertones.
The pun, good genes, activates troubling historical associations for this country. The American eugenics movement in its prime between like 1900 and 1940 weaponized the idea of good genes just to justify white supremacism.
Despite that backlash, American Eagle stock has been soaring.
Despite the backlash, American Eagle stock has been soaring, says Good Morning America. Yeah, because no one buys your load of BS anymore. I mean, people are so over this level of clownish media reporting, but they just can't help themselves. The fact that Good Morning America elected to go down this road, they could have ignored it. They could have said, hey, look at this new ad. It's getting a lot of headlines, getting a lot of attention. Instead, they bought into the propaganda. Hook, line, and sinker is what they did, while claiming they're the ones just reporting on the news. They claim, they suggest, that's not what was going on there. Good Morning America, owned by ABC, which obviously is overseen by Disney, runs this story saying the Sydney Sweeney clothing ad is somehow tied to Nazi propaganda from 100 years ago. Boy, these people just need to take a step back, take a deep breath, and stop taking everything so seriously and stop looking for racism around every corner. I know it's big business for hucksters like Al Sharpton and so many others, but man, this is exactly what happened 4 to 5 years ago, right, with like the Washington Redskins and the Cleveland Indians and Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima. They just try to find racism and prejudice in everything. Instead of being like, oh, that's clever. Yeah, Sydney Sweeney has good genes. And what does it say? What does it say about the people claiming racism when nothing about this is tied to Sydney Sweeney's skin color? Could you have put a young Halle Berry on there? Could you have put a young Jennifer Lopez on there and made the same case? Of course you could have. Now, I'm not really up to speed right now on the modeling industry. I know that's going to shock you as you get your Wednesday morning started. So I don't know who those it models are right now in their 20 to 35 range. I don't know who those people are. I mean, Sydney Sweeney's kind of like at the top of the list right now. But you get the point. Does Jennifer Lopez have good genes? Of course. Does Halle Berry have good genes? Yeah, I would say so. She's approaching 60 and looks about 15 years younger. Sydney Sweeney also has good genes. They all happen to have different eye colors, different skin tones, different hair colors. Go figure. The real racists are the ones who are claiming this Sydney Sweeney ad is racist. They're the ones who actually are projecting racism. But I love this headline from the Babylon Bee satirical website that read as follows. Federal judge orders Sydney Sweeney to gain 100 pounds and get one of those butch haircuts. That was the headline from the Babylon Bee. You like that one, Mark? That's pretty good.
That's good. They have some funny headlines.
They write here, once again, this is satire. They write here, Judge Eileen Bauer, an Obama appointee to a D.C. area district court, issued an emergency ruling that Sweeney's attractiveness violated the law and demanded she pack on some weight to become as visually unappealing to consumers as possible. Bauer said in her legal ruling, this type of brazen attractiveness cannot be allowed to stand. It is the responsibility of the court to hold corporations to a specific legal standard, which in this case means American Eagle is prohibited from featuring a thin, blonde white woman in its advertisements. It is hereby the opinion of the court that Miss Sweeney put on a minimum of 100 pounds right this minute and cut her hair or face disciplinary action, Mark.
Oh, my goodness. I don't usually get to use this one in July, but it has to happen.
Thanksgiving. Boy, I love Thanksgiving.
Sydney needs some Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah. And if she goes out with old Rex Archer, she'll gain that 100 pounds real fast. I promise you that. Oh, my gosh. This is just too much. And in the meantime, American Eagle is laughing all the way to the bank. God bless them. This is great. And this is America at its finest. We've come a long way from 5 years ago when we were told that people like Lizzo were the shining example of health and beauty in America. Thank goodness that's not the case anymore. Bill O'Reilly's right. I could not agree with him more when he talks about those devices. Although I will say, I don't want to speak out of school here, but I don't think I am when I share this story with you. When I was visiting with O'Reilly last week, he invited me over to his home, and he's got this big, beautiful house right on the beach, right on the cliffs. He walks down to the beach. He's got his own private walkway down there. So normally, I meet Bill at his home, and he's there at the front door, right? Well, I'm told that Bill's down at the beach, and he's waiting for you. So I basically let myself in. I walk through his backyard. I get to catch up with his son, Spencer. We chat for a couple of minutes. Good kid, doing very well, just wrapped up college. And then I walk down his private beach pathway, I guess, is what you would call it. He's got about 50 steps down to the beach. And then he's got about 60 yards, give or take, of private beach there where he's more or less got to himself. Now, people walk by and whatnot, but he's basically got the beachfront to himself there. So I'm making this trek on the beach, and I see Bill down at the beach, and he's sitting under an umbrella, and there's two chairs there. He's sitting in one. He's got one there for me. So, Mark, this is kind of like, it was something like out of like The Sopranos or something, where I've got this walk from the beach all the way to where Bill is sitting under an umbrella down by the water, and it's probably a 60, 70-yard trek across the beach to go to where Bill's sitting. And the whole time he's just got his back to me. Now, he doesn't know I'm coming, obviously. He knows I'm coming. He doesn't know when exactly I'm going to be there.
Did you scare him
So he's
a
got
little
his
bit?
back to me. Exactly. The whole time I'm like, okay, what do I say to a guy who doesn't know I'm about to walk up behind him, right? What do you say? So the whole 50-yard walk, I'm thinking about what the opening line is going to be to Bill as he's sitting there on one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, and he's got, obviously, his phone in his hands. That's why I'm tying it into what he just talked about there. And he was going through ratings for cable news and also for his radio shows that he does all over the country. And then we started talking about his radio shows. So my opening line was something stupid about the weather that day or whatever it was. Oh, boy, can't beat the weather today. It's like, what do you say in that spot, right? Hey, I'm here. Like, what is your opening line going to be? I think I made the best of it, Mark, but,
Yeah.
I probably could have done better in hindsight.
About 20 yards away. Bill, your pal, Pete's here. Hey.
Yeah, it's always a little awkward when the person is sitting there with their back to you. They know you're coming, but they don't know exactly when you're going to be there. So then you've got to think of some clever opening line. But Bill was spot on with that morning commentary when it comes to the phones. I'm admitting, and we've talked about it on the show, I'm guilty as charged with this stupid thing, especially with what we do for a living. I'm looking at it and thinking about what did I miss in the news? What happened in the news cycle that I might have missed out on? So I'm getting better at it. I'm making a point to try to put it away when I can, when I'm not in the work cycle, and I think that's something we should all definitely be thinking about because Bill's right, and especially with the kids. I mean, this thing is just destroying childhood. There's no doubt about it. Now, Andy Reid commented yesterday on the tragedy in New York City where you had this gunman, 27-year-old guy from Vegas, show up at the NFL headquarters in New York City and open fire. He took the wrong elevator, so he ended up at the Blackstone headquarters. Not Black Rock. People keep confusing Blackstone and Black Rock I'm seeing on the internet, and they're trying to tie it into a larger, I don't know. I don't want to say a conspiracy theory, but they're trying to tie it into Black Rock, and Blackstone is not Black Rock. But anyway, Andy Reid gave the following statement yesterday. The people at the league office that had to go through all of that, it's a bad deal. We've got to try to keep the peace somewhere here. There's too much of this. That was the statement and the quote yesterday from Andy Reid commenting on what happened in New York City. So typical Andy Reid, there wasn't a lot there. It was just like, nice words and certainly appropriate given what happened. 5 people dead, including the gunman. But now we know that the gunman had a letter on him where he wanted the NFL or somebody to study his brain. Shane Devon Tamura. Now, this guy didn't play in the NFL, just to be clear. He did not play in the NFL. He was a good high school player and a good high school prospect. But he is claiming that he has been dealing with CTE for quite some time. Whether or not his brain gets studied doesn't really matter because this story is not going to go anywhere. The NFL won't let it go anywhere. The NFL, for a long time, has wanted to avoid this entire CTE conversation. They have the most popular sport in America, hands down. It's not even close. You talk about things we're addicted to in America right now. Yeah, smartphones is one. The NFL might be too. It's crazy. Major League Baseball, the NBA, they don't hold a candle to the popularity of the NFL right now. So this is not something the NFL is going to try to bring a lot of attention to. In fact, I would be shocked if they do anything like pregame ceremonies or moments of silence in week 1 for the individual who lost her life who worked for the NFL. I don't think that's going to happen because that would be bringing more attention to this thing, and frankly, they don't want that. Coming up on KCMO, Josh Hawley wants more attention after his latest idea that's getting a lot of blowback. We'll talk about it next. Josh Hawley is doubling down. The Missouri U.S. Senator is all in on cutting checks to American families and American workers from the tariff revenue coming into the United States. Josh Hawley did roll out a bill late on Monday to give $600 in tariff rebates to millions of Americans. And this is something that came just days after President Trump floated the idea very casually in a back and forth with reporters on Friday. And Josh Hawley in Missouri said in a statement here, Americans deserve a tax rebate after 4 years of Biden policies that have devastated families, savings, and livelihoods. Where are the crickets when I need them here, Mark? Can I get some crickets, please? Thank you. So Joe Biden's policies devastated families, savings, and livelihoods. So let's do more of it, says Josh Hawley. A genius. I I like Josh Hawley. I got to preface my comments by saying he's a friend of the show, and he's right more than he's wrong. But it's like, dude, you can't sit there and say, after 4 years of Biden policies, we've got to help the American worker with a tax rebate. This is exactly what got us into this mess, cutting checks to the American people with this promise of, oh, don't you want $600 here? And there was the $1,200 check too, and it was nonstop during COVID. It was to help the worker and help the little guy and get through COVID. And what did it result in? It resulted in 40-year high inflation numbers that destroyed the working class, that hurt the working poor and the working class more than it hurt anybody in the top 10, 5, or 1%. So Josh Hawley says, let's do more of that after ripping on Joe Biden. Dude, this is like Joe Biden's wet dream. I don't know if he can still have those, but you get the point. I mean, this is like right up Joe Biden's alley, cutting checks to the American people. It's just bad and really, really dumb policy. He goes on Steve Bannon's show yesterday, and here's what Josh Hawley had to say.
Can we just take a second to underscore what you said about President Trump? Lo and behold, his tariff plan is working. He's getting these fantastic trade deals. And what I love about him, Steve, is not only is he getting more investment in the U.S. markets, fair deals for us where we actually can get into these markets on fair terms for our farmers and our manufacturers, but also he is locking in tariffs, 15% baseline tariff in the EU. Just remember back to January when Trump was proposing 10% global tariffs, and the Financial Times and people like that were melting down and saying, oh, that'll crash the global economy. Now they're celebrating it. So there you go. But number two, here's what I would say about this. These tariffs are raising incredible amounts of money. We're on track to raise over $150 billion from tariff revenues this year alone, this calendar year alone. My view is we ought to give a portion of that back to our working class, blue-collar voters who powered the Trump revolution, who got this president into office multiple times, and who are the backbone of this nation. Biden has crushed these people. What a legacy for Donald Trump to say, I'm going to take a portion of this massive money that he's raising on these tariffs and return it to the people who run this country and are going to build our future.
That was Josh Hawley on Steve Bannon's show yesterday. And it's a bad idea with unintended consequences that we should learn from, considering we lived through them 5 years ago. It's not like we're sitting here and forgetting history. It's not like we need to go back 100 years to see how this would go. We have to go back 5 years ago to remember how this would go. And if we just start shipping out $600 checks to American workers and dependents, you think that the 2.5%, maybe 3% inflation that we're working through right now, you think that's a little too high still? And when you talk to and you poll the American worker, what do they say? They're still concerned about savings. They're still concerned about the cost of living. This will feel good. It will be like a sugar high. It'll feel good for about 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe up to an hour. It'll feel really good. And politicians will pat themselves in the back and they'll say, look at us, look at what we're doing. We're giving you guys money. We're taking care of you here. I don't want Josh Hawley to take care of me. I don't want Josh Hawley to take care of my family. I don't want Donald Trump to do that. I don't want Bernie Sanders to do that. I don't want AOC to do that. I want these guys and gals to get the hell out of the way, leave us alone, charge us as little taxes as possible, let us keep our own money, and basically do as little as humanly possible. Now, they do that last part pretty well. They just spend too much in the process. I don't want them taking care of me. I don't need Josh Hawley helping my family. I need him getting out of the way of me succeeding on the professional front, and then my wife and I succeeding on the household front to take care of our own family. That's what I need. On the text line, Pete, this stuff works at the polls. Josh ain't dumb. I'm not saying he's dumb. I think he's very bright. Trust me, the guy went to what, Yale? He's really smart, and he's a good guy, and I agree with him a lot. But this stuff drives me nuts. And when you hear it from Republicans, it gets me even more worked up because it's like they should know better. It's like when you're dealing with your own children, right? when your own kids do something that you know they shouldn't do, it's more bothersome than when someone else's kid does it because you can't control other people's kids. You can control your own, and you expect better from your own children than you do other people's kids. And I feel like Josh Hawley is like one of my own. You know, I came to town, and he was just launching the Senate campaign, and we've known each other very well for 7 years, and I like him. We've met personally. We've met professionally. We've been in a lot of settings together, and I like him, and I think he would say the same about me. So that's why this one just gets me so worked up, and he's doubling down on it. But he doesn't need it for the polls. He just got reelected last November. He's in a Trump plus 20 state. He's fine. I think this is about partially setting up a future presidential run, but this bill itself is going nowhere in the U.S. Senate. We all know that. 913-4087-957. Let's go to you. Fred in Overland Park first up. What's up, Fred? You're on KCMO.
Yeah, I've argued with you on this before. You're comparing someone that printed trillions of dollars to bribe people to send to DEI puppet shows in India, et cetera, et cetera. The entire time I've known you on this show, you've said, like every conservative talk show, that they've blown our tax money on this, that. And I said when Doge stopped some illegal transfers of money that entities didn't have the power to do, I said when we get the money back, if they stole it from us, where's our stimulus check? Giving it back. They ran up everybody's credit cards, refinances on this, that, skyrocketing prices.
Fred, they didn't steal it from you, okay? They printed it. Your money was spent years ago. There's no stealing from you or stealing from me. They're printing money. They're robbing from future generations to make this stuff happen. Let's be very clear. Your money was stolen a long time ago, Fred. No one stole your money here recently.
So they increased the taxes to pay for this or that, their BS programs, et cetera, and they spend it on whatever. That is stealing our money. If you're
who increased your taxes? The federal taxes haven't gone up they've gone down the last decade.
So Social Security or Medicaid they're giving to illegal immigrants, all that's just fake money, monopoly money. It didn't come from no taxpayer, no citizen in the country. No, because they're running $2-3 trillion deficits. They're printing it. So thank you, Fred. I mean, they're printing the money. They're not stealing it from you. I mean, I understand the idea, like they're stealing our taxpayer dollars. I get that. They're mismanaging it. They're misspending it. But I don't understand the broader point here. Just because Joe Biden did really dumb things with our tax dollars doesn't mean that we should be okay with it when Josh Hawley does it, right? I mean, I don't really understand the point. John's in Topeka. What's going on, John?
Good morning, Pete. Hello?
Yeah, what's going on, John?
Hey, good morning. If you ever wondered why the Jews wandered in the desert for 40 years, this is a perfect example of the Republican leadership. They're trying to wander us out in the desert with their own ideas rather than just following Trump and his idea for a fiscal plan that's going to fix our economy. And if he's got presidential aspirations, Mr. Hawley, I'm going to tell you that McCain was a fluke when he got voted in. I don't know how John McCain got in there, walking both sides of the fence, but the fact is that, following Trump and doing what Trump is doing is going to get you closer to the presidential, seat than wandering around, sitting there trying to guide people off this way. And here's my great idea, and here's my great idea. Like, let's just follow Trump, do what he's doing, and let's get her done and get America fixed, and forget about rebate checks and forget about all this stuff, and just get it on track and cut our taxes.
Thank you, John. Josh Hawley would say that he is doing this because he is following Trump, because Trump threw out the idea last week. But here's the difference. Trump was asked in a press conference, hey, might you consider rebate checks for the American people with all this tariff money coming in? And Trump does his classic Trump, like, great idea. That's a fantastic idea. But that's just like Trump being Trump, off-the-cuff press conference kind of stuff. Frankly, I don't think this would have gone anywhere after that Trump comment, but obviously Josh Hawley has introduced legislation around this, which also is going to go nowhere. Let's be very clear. No one's taken this up in the Senate. John Thune's not doing anything with this piece of legislation. The House would never do anything with this either. Like, it's not going anywhere. But because it's one of our own U.S. senators and it's gotten so much attention, and Josh Hawley is doubling down on it and going on shows talking about it like Steve Bannon's, that's why we're talking about it here on KCMO. On the text line, Pete, it looks like Josh found Hunter Biden's crack.
Hey-o.
Oh, boy, I don't think that's what's going on here. But interesting on the text line there. Oh, man. On the text line, Pete, printing money devalues every dollar. Wake up, you understand that. No, I understand that. I agree with that. That's exactly what I'm saying here. I think we're all on the same page. On the text line, Pete, printing money increases inflation, devalues the dollar. Yeah, absolutely it does. And I don't want to do more of that.
I think
by
Fred
cutting
just
$600
wanted a check.
checks. Yeah, I think he might have, Mark. And that's fine. If you want to check, I mean, just call in and be like, I want $600 in the mail from the government. That's cool. I don't. I mean, I do. I just want him to. Here's the thing. I want him to not take $600. That's what I want him to do. Instead of like take $600 and then give me back $600 and act like they're doing me a solid. That's what I would prefer in a perfect world. The Panikins are taking it in the shorts once again. We have numbers for the U.S. economy that just dropped here in the last 15 minutes. The GDP, gross domestic product, which is a sum of goods and services activity across the U.S. economy, jumped 3% for Q2. That's April through June. This topped the estimates of 2.3%, and it reversed a decline of 0.5% for the first quarter. Now remember, when the first quarter GDP came out at negative 0.5%, we knew that that came largely due to a huge drop in imports, which subtract from the total, as well as a weak consumer spending because there were a lot of tariff concerns during Q1. So we knew that Q2 was going to pop. But it popped way beyond the expectations of 2.3%, and we just got a GDP number that came in at 3%, well above the expectations. Now, this is fantastic news, and here are some of the details that also need to be shared. Consumer spending accelerated in Q2 from Q1. That's good news. Government purchases barely grew. And now we're flat on the year. So what's going on here? This is exactly what President Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent have tried to articulate the last few months. Growing the productivity of the private sector, not the government. So much of the growth that we saw during Joe Biden's 4 years in office was done with government money, your money, our money, right? Printing money. They were goosing the economy artificially with government spending. We are now basically flat on government spending so far this year. Meantime, you look at Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 last year for the prior administration, and they were growing at 3%, 4%, 5% a year, some quarters. Same thing in 2023. That's what was happening the last couple of years. Right now, we're flat, and we've seen a major uptick here in Q2 when it comes to consumer spending accelerating in Q2 from Q1, not government purchases. So this is a great step in the right direction. This is a bad day for those who have been insisting that Donald Trump's economic strategy and Scott Bessent's economic strategy is going to crash and burn. And yes, there are still concerns over what the economy broadly is going to look like with the tariff situation still up in the air. But we're starting to see confidence from the consumer continue to uptick, and that's a big deal. And now we have a GDP number that has blown out the expectations here this morning, which is a great step in the right direction. So this is big-time stuff, and this is outstanding news as we get it going and we approach the 8 o'clock hour here on 95.7 FM. We're always streaming, of course, on the iHeart app as well, or the TuneIn app. Just search KCMO Talk Radio, and you can see it there. Also, coming out this morning, inflation indicators have come down in Q2. Why? Lower energy prices. That's great. and the GDP price index came in just below the 2% target. So that is good news, and maybe that will lead to potential rate cuts later this year. I'm still saying pump the brakes on rate cuts, but if we hit that 2% target, then you know what? Full steam ahead. Let's go.